Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Tom's Gadget Garage. Today I am out here with the Lectric XPeak 2.0 and we're going to be doing a range test. Now, Lectric does claim this bike will get upwards of 80 miles of theoretical range, and it's important to keep in mind that, those manufacturer claims are always theoretical figures, in the most ideal conditions, usually cruising around in the lowest level of pedal assist on completely flat ground in ideal conditions. So today we're going to see how much range I can squeeze out as a 203-pound rider cruising around in pedal assist 3. Now the bike that I'm testing out today is the long range edition. So it's got a 48 volt 20 amp hour battery, which is good for 960 watt hours of capacity, which is a pretty decent sized battery, for a more budget oriented e-bike. All right, looks like our bike lane is closed ahead, so transition over to the sidewalk for a bit. Anyway, you might have noticed it's pretty wet out. We've had multiple days of heavy rain out here, which should make this interesting because about 30% of the bike path that we're going to be riding around on today is not paved. It's actually hard-packed dirt. So depending on the condition of that, we might take a little bit of a detour. Generally speaking, I will do all of my range tests on the exact same course with all of my e-bikes and scooters. That way we have the most consistent way of tracking these rides. Now I will be using Garmin GPS today. That's what I use for all those tests. And at the end of it, at the end of this test I should say, we will download all those stats and see how we did. Now a portion of our ride today does have us cruising around on the streets. And anytime I do that, I always ensure I have a mirror mounted to the bike, for me on the left side here. That way I can see who's coming up behind me, If somebody's coming too close, somebody's not paying attention, it at least gives me a chance to react rather than being caught by surprise. And I've used this specific mirror for the better part of the last 19 months or so, and I use it on almost all of my e-bikes, and so it's definitely a solid mirror. I'll be sure to include a link in the description below in case you want to pick one of these up. Right now I'm in pedal assist 3, gear 5. Display's showing about 17.4 miles an hour. The GPS is showing about 17.1 miles an hour, so pretty close in terms of accuracy. So the trail we're going to be going on today is the Powerline Trail. And as I mentioned, I use this for all my range tests for consistency's sake. It's going to be about 70% paved surfaces, 30% hard-packed dirt, which I'm not sure I want to ride on today because this stuff is looking pretty wet. Now, if you follow my channel for a while, you probably already know that whenever I review different bikes and scooters and things like that, I do an entire review series. That way you have a full library and you can gather pretty much all the information you might need to make a decision as to whether or not a bike or a scooter might be worth the purchase. Today's going to be our range test. We will also likely be doing a full hill climb test up Phoenix's South Mountain. So stay tuned because there's going to be a lot of content on this bike coming up. Now, whenever I do these range tests, one thing that I keep a close eye out on is the voltage. Now, not all bikes give you a voltage readout, which is unfortunate. But this bike does have a voltage readout, which is important because a lot of times these bikes will give you a battery bar readout at the top, which generally speaking is wildly unreliable. With a lot of bikes, it'll say 100% and you're 20 miles into the ride and all of a sudden it says, oh, you got 40% remaining. So it's very easy to misjudge your rides based on those battery bars. So I use the voltage. And so we're going to be turning around at about 48.8 volts, which means we're going to have about 60% battery remaining in the tank at that point. And the reason why I do that, and I don't turn around at 50%, is the first half of these batteries is always more performant than the second half, which I'll get into in a moment. I just had to get across that intersection there, a loud one. So what do I mean by first half being more performant? Well, when you have a fully charged battery, this thing will be basically at 54.6 volts fully charged, even though it's a 48 volt system. And as you draw down that battery, as you ride further and further out, that voltage drops. So you're going to get less output from that motor over time. You're going to get less top speed, you're going to get less acceleration. And so in the first half of that battery, you've got higher voltage, second half, you got lower voltage. And so that's part of the reason why I do these range tests, so that you not only have an idea of what you might be able to get in terms of real world range on these bikes, but also it'll give you a good idea of how this bike performs as you wear that battery down. With this being an all-terrain bike, you know, it does have a lot of torque, 85 Newton meters to be specific. And you know, a lot of times budget-oriented bikes will have anywhere from, you know, 55, maybe 70, 75 Newton meters of torque. So 85 puts it at the higher end for bikes like this, which is going to be really important if you're riding off the beaten path, especially up steep terrain. So now begins the hard-packed dirt portion of our ride today. Now things are quite soggy this morning, but the beautiful thing is we've got 26-inch by 4-inch fat tires. So those wide profile tires will help prevent us from digging into this soft stuff. It's one of the nice things about fat tire e-bikes is that they give you the opportunity to traverse all kinds of riding surfaces with ease. So whether you're driving on hard-packed dirt, paved surfaces, grass, what else? Gravel, sandy conditions, bikes like this will give you the best chance of making it across. One of the things that I absolutely love about this bike, and I can't overstate how important this is that front fork. So they use an RST Renegade front fork on this bike that's got 80 millimeters of travel. Now most budget-oriented bikes out there will have some no-brand, off-the-shelf front fork, which, you know, at the end of the day gets the job done. You know, there's no knock on those. But this bike actually uses a premium fork, which makes all the difference in the world. You know, you can go over pretty rough stuff and this thing absorbs it beautifully. You know, it's a hydraulic suspension up front, and as you can see, this thing is super plush. I absolutely love it. And it's a night and day difference. So I'm gonna take a quick pause here and show you that front fork. All right, well, I had to pull forward a little bit because there were some dogs out there and I was getting them all riled up, but here is that RST front fork. It's the Renegade. It's got 80 millimeters of travel. And the nice thing is you've got this really nice little lever which makes adjusting preload on this a breeze. And then of course here you've got your travel adjustment, which is very high resolution. So you can completely lock it out or you can adjust how much travel you get out of that. So I can tell you right now, front suspension, at least the quality of the front suspension, makes all the difference in the world. And I figure, while I'm giving you a little tour here, I've got my rear bag here. I'll show you what I carry in here. I got some film equipment. I've got a bike pump. I did a review on this one, the Psych Plus. I'll include a link to that video. Pretty awesome lightweight pump. I've got a little bit of a tire repair kit here in case I have any kind of flats. I've got a bottle of slime. I normally take an extra tube, but I think I took it out of this bag. I got a hex key set in case I need it. I've got a crescent wrench so I can take off the rear wheel nuts. I've got a Leatherman, and I got some other things in here, little tools. But anyways, if I ever have an issue, I'm 100% prepared to deal with that. So anyways, always recommend going out on your rides well prepared. So as you can see, I'm cruising around on gravel surface right now, and this is very comfortable. You know, so for an all-terrain bike like this, I mean, if you're gonna ride off the beaten path, yeah, that's a great option. But if you wanna use a bike like this as a commuter, it's also a great option because it's extremely comfortable. You know, it's gonna soak up a lot of the lumps and bumps in the road. It doesn't have a rear suspension, it is a hardtail. However, on a lot of the packages that Lectric includes, they often include a suspension seat post, which helps make things, you know, a little bit more comfortable when riding on some of the bumpier stuff. Into the messy stuff. I will definitely be doing a lot of bike cleaning tonight, that's for sure. Oh, this stuff is, oh, this is straight up mud. Maybe it dries up a little bit up ahead. Oh geez. These tires are doing a fantastic job. We're maintaining traction even in this sloppy stuff. And it looks like it gets even sloppier up ahead, so we're just gonna go around this, cruise around on this little grass section here, and hop back on. If you were wondering, this bike does come with a front and rear fender, which is gonna be important in times like this when you're riding through some messy stuff. Without those fenders, you know, that stuff's gonna be splashing all over you. And for all of you keeping track, we just crossed the 7-mile mark and we've been riding around for about 36 minutes. Battery bars are showing full voltage, is showing about 52.7. Now, this XPeak 2.0 does have a torque sensor. You know, Lectric is starting to use more and more torque sensors on their bikes. And you know, when it comes to sensors, you normally have two options. You've got a cadence sensor and you got a torque sensor. You know, torque sensor is going to use a pressure-based system, so the more power you put to the pedals, like I'm doing right now, the more output you're going to get from the motor, which gives torque sensor e-bikes a much more natural ride feel. You know, it's more akin to riding a regular bike compared to something, you know, with a cadence sensor. Cadence sensors, as long as you're moving those pedals, you know, that motor will be running. It doesn't matter how hard you're pressing the pedals. Okay, here's our pedestrian bridge. We are in pedal assist 3 right now, gear 4. We're gonna head up into this, see how we do. As I mentioned, this is a torque sensor e-bike, so the harder I pedal, the more output I'm gonna get from it. We're maintaining about 14 miles an hour. If I wanna increase the level of pedal assist, I can do that, and we get a surge of power. So, on bikes like this, not only do you have the different levels of pedal assist, but you've also got your gears available to you. All right, coming down this, we're gonna have a good opportunity to test out our brakes. This bike does have hydraulic brakes, 203 millimeter rotor up front, 180 millimeter rotor in the rear. So as you can see, plenty of power to keep a nice controlled descent down that. So we've officially crossed the 10-mile mark. We've been riding around for about 52 minutes. I'm showing 100% battery bars on the screen, no surprise there. And voltage, 52.1. So we are making good progress. Got some train tracks here, clear on the left and right, and right up and over that. So one of the things I love most about e-bikes is that they give you an amazing opportunity to get out and see the world around you. I'll tell you right now, if it wasn't for this e-bike or the scooters that I test out, I'd be sleeping in every Saturday and Sunday morning. But instead, you know, I get up, come out here at, you know, between 6 and 8 a.m. and enjoy everything this world has to offer. I can't tell you how many places I've discovered that I had no idea even existed before hopping on a bike. You know, and on a morning like this, it's 50 some odd degrees Fahrenheit, nice cool breeze. You know, just rained a ton last night, so you got that fresh rain smell in the air. I mean, you can't beat it. Now, one question I often get asked is how loud or quiet are the motors on these e-bikes? Well, it depends on the manufacturer. On this XPeak 2.0, they do use their latest generation M24 motors, which are significantly quieter than your typical 750 watt motor. Now, in this video, if you hear kind of a droning sound, that's not the motor. Those are the tires. You know, these tires have a knobby tread to them. It's kind of like putting all-terrain or mud-terrain tires on a car. You can kind of hear them droning as they go down the road. So that's what you hear. Me personally, I can't hear this motor right now. It's operating very quietly. The only time you really hear it is when you're really putting it under load. Let's say riding, you know, off-road, up a steep embankment. That's when you hear the motor kick into high gear. But right now, Zero motor noise, all tire noise. All right, so we're gonna take a little break here at this stop off point by the canal. And it's one thing, you know, to mention is that when you have a bag on the rear of the bike, you really have to get your leg over this thing. Anyways, so this is the Western Canal, made in 1913, and there's our, you know, dam here for the water. Obviously, we've gotten a lot of rain, so this thing is nice and active. Anyways, we're at about 14.5 miles right now. Been riding for about an hour and 13 minutes. But yeah, we'll head back on our ride. Let's see, voltage 51.6. Now 51.6 means that we've got approximately 80% battery remaining in the tank. So I'd say we are doing pretty good. In terms of this display, you know, it's a very nice, bright, sunny day, and this thing has really good contrast. So very easy to see both at night in low light conditions as well as in very bright conditions. All right, so here is the park I was talking about. This is Kiwanis Park here in Tempe. Little water feature we can cruise around. Got a couple little hills out here, some cobblestone paths we can test the suspension on. Let's see if this little cobblestone bridge is open. It is, yeah. Let's see how this front fork suspension does on this. Here we go. Just eats that up. It just eats that up. So, RST front fork for the win. Cross under the bridge here. And a little bit of a hill. We'll cut through the grass here. Climb out of this and continue on our test. Didn't even notice it, but for those of you keeping track, we have officially crossed over the 20-mile mark, and voltage is sitting at around 50 volts, 50 resting volts. All right, folks, so we're gonna go ahead and turn around here because we're gonna take some side paths. So even though we're not at 48.8 volts, this is a good turnaround spot, and then we'll loop around some trails by the golf course, bleed out some range there, and then we'll head back on the path to get us back to where we started. If you've watched some of my previous videos covering electric bikes, including the Lectric XPeak 3.0 and the Lectric one, both of those I actually purchased with my own money. Those bikes use the same seat that this bike does. And I find the electric seats to be pretty uncomfortable on long rides. You know, and it's important to note that, you know, seat comfort, well, what might be comfortable for me might not be comfortable for you, and vice versa. You know, so seat preference is very personal, but for me, these seats are very uncomfortable. So what I usually do is I swap them out with my Cloud 9 seats. You know, I don't have any relationship with Cloud 9. I just use their seats on multiple bikes of mine, and there's two models that I use. And I find those to be very comfortable. They've got just the right amount of padding, ventilation, springiness to them. So if you're finding the seat on any of your bikes to be uncomfortable, and you haven't tried a Cloud 9 seat, I definitely recommend it. I will include a Amazon affiliate link in the description below for that. So if you want to test those out, they've definitely done right by me over thousands of miles of rides. For a little bit of a benchmark. On the Lectric XPeak 2.0 long range edition, I got about 39 miles of range. The next bike, the Engine Pro 2.0, that particular bike, I got about 44 miles of range. Let's see, what else did we test out? The L20 2.0. That's their, more budget-oriented bike. Super low priced. That actually got, I think, if I remember correctly, something around 49 miles of range. That was pretty insane. That was an all-day long bike ride. I definitely wasn't happy because it was in the middle of the summer. I was like, please run out of juice. Mach Wheel Slate. That's a folding electric bike, like the L20 2.0 and the Engine Pro 2.0. Mach Wheel Slate, I think that's the best performing bike I've ever tested, in terms of range. That got 49.5 miles of range. What else? Let's see. There's several others. I can't remember them all. This is all from memory. But that first benchmark is the XPeak 3.0 at 39 miles. We'll see if we make it today. Good thing to know is that with this bike, if you do run out of power, on flat ground, it's relatively easy to pedal around 10 miles an hour. All right, folks, I had to take a little bit of a pit stop here to swap out the battery on my camera. 2 hours and 6 minutes before I had to replace that battery. I used the DJI Osmo Action 5. I've actually got a bunch of cameras, but that's my favorite for long distance rides. But anyways, here's our XPeak. Doing a phenomenal job so far, voltage wise. Let's see, what are we at? All right. We are currently at 49.7 volts. We're doing a lot better than I expected at this point. So we'll see how we end up. But it's a good looking bike. I'm very happy with it so far. And if you're curious about the helmet I'm using today, I'm using this Lumos Ultra e-bike helmet. It's got lights on the back that light up. It's got some flashing lights up front, integrated turn signals, integrated brake lights, the whole 9 yards. So I usually wear this when I'm cruising around at night or riding around on the streets because it gives me more visibility. I did do an entire review on that helmet, so if you're interested in something like that with lights, that's just one of many options available on the market. But even though this is a larger bike, with the battery and everything, weighs over 70 pounds, and it's got the big tires, it is still a very nimble bike. You can get this thing moving around. The handlebars feel very light on this bike. So sometimes with fat tire bikes, you get these kind of bigger, heavier feel to the steering. Not so with this, which is going to be important, especially if you're going to be riding off-road. You want to have, command and control of the handlebars when you're navigating crazy stuff. So a little more riding off the beaten path, and then we've got our pedestrian bridge. And here's some gravel, kind of little cobblestone, riverstone type stuff. Right up and over that. That was actually very comfortable. Comes to show. Good suspension can go a long way and make it a nice, comfortable ride. All right, here we go. A little bit of a hill climb. We are in gear 1. That's a little ridiculous. Let me switch over to gear 2, pedal assist 3. With these torque sensors, the harder you pedal, more output you're going to get from the motor. But we're cruising up here about 13, 14 miles an hour. No problem at all. All right, we are up and over. Now we'll head on down, test out these brakes. Woo! Solid. This is the historic downtown Gilbert area. Lots of folks out and about today. See, I think they got some kind of event down here. We'll check it out, see what's going on out here. Oh yeah, they must have some kind of event. Normally pretty quiet out here. Some kind of a food event. Oh yeah. Okay. Here's the historic Gilbert Water Tower. Lots of folks out here today. And there it is, folks. I don't know how well you can see it on camera, but that is the Gilbert Water Tower. This place has been under construction for a while, and looks like it's all opened up now. All right, so we are back off the beaten path again. Looks like some of this has had the opportunity to dry a little bit. Not as squishy this time around, except right there. And that's the beauty of having these 4-inch fat tires. Narrower tires will probably dig right in. We'll go around this onto the grass. So as you can see, a bike like this is not just for, riding around on trails and stuff. If you use this as a commuter, but you got a little bit of a detour, this thing's got you covered. Quick little update here. We have crossed the 35-mile mark. Been cruising around for about 2 hours, 58 minutes, so just shy of 3 hours on this ride so far. And from a voltage perspective, we've still got 50% battery remaining. That is insane. All right, folks, so we've officially crossed the 39-mile mark, which means we have eclipsed what we were able to get on the Lectric XPeak 2.0 Long Range Edition. And that bike I got just north of 39 miles of range. So next up in line, I believe, is the Engwe Engine Pro 2.0 at about 44.5 miles. Now in terms of power output, now that we're below 50% battery remaining, I can definitely feel it takes a little bit longer to get up to speed, and I'm having to put in just a little extra effort to maintain the speeds that I was able to maintain earlier on in the ride. So we're starting to see some of the effects of that lower voltage now. Earlier I was talking about the battery bars. I am seeing red and yellow, 3 bars remaining. So it seems like the second half of the battery status indicator is a lot more accurate. It's just that beginning part, that first half, and it's not very reliable. So that's why I always look at the voltage, which, as I mentioned earlier, not all bikes show you voltage, which is a shame. I think they all should. Some bikes, though, do have pretty accurate battery readouts. I think that's more the exception than the norm. But yeah, you can never go wrong with voltage, though. And we've officially transitioned back onto the surface streets. Definitely keep an eye out on my mirror here for people riding by me. Right now we're cruising around. Let's see, I'll go up a gear. Cruising around about 15, 16 miles an hour. And yeah, I can definitely feel that I'm putting in more effort than before. But we're still cruising. All right, folks, so it's official. We have officially crossed the 45-mile mark, which means we've exceeded the range we were able to get on the Engwe Engine Pro 2.0. And we've been riding around for about 3 hours, 48 minutes at this point. So definitely a long ride today. As you can see, we're cruising around on this kind of gravel surface here. And this bike does a really good job gripping the path, Don't have to worry about sliding out or anything like that. A little more riding on rough roads here. Got some cobblestones. Front fork just eats those up. Beautiful. Love it. Ladies and gentlemen, we have officially crossed the 50-mile mark on this Lectric XPeak 2.0. That is absolutely insane. You know, right now we're in pedal assist 3. Let's see if I put some power down here. We can still hit 19 miles an hour or so, but in regular pedaling, you know, we're still cruising 15, 16 miles an hour, but 50-mile bike ride officially makes this the longest distance e-bike that I've tested on this channel to date. Definitely looking forward to a cup of coffee and a solid lunch, that's for sure. Woo! Been riding over 4 hours at this point. That's crazy. Let me know in the comment section below, like, what's the longest e-bike ride you've ever been on? You know, up until this point, for me, it was 49.5 miles. Quick little update here. I mean, this bike is still going strong. You know, resting voltage is, you know, just under 44 volts. I think we're at like 43 point something volts, and so, yeah, but it's been holding strong at this voltage level since my last check-in. You know, we're approaching 54 miles at this point. You know, so I don't know when this is gonna end. Oh man, this thing just keeps on trucking along. All right, folks, so I think I'm about to call this ride. Right now, it's basically me putting in most of the work. We're at around the 42 volt range. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull in, we'll download the stats and see how we did on our ride today. All right, folks, so there you have it. That was our range test with the Lectric XPeak 2.0. On today's ride, we were able to achieve a monster 55.7 miles. We had an average moving speed of 13.8 miles an hour. We hit a top speed of 20.3 miles an hour. We were riding around today for 4 hours and 37 minutes, and we had an elevation gain of 840 feet. Now, I am very grateful for these 26-inch by 4-inch fat tires, as well as that RST Renegade front fork. Both did a fantastic job in helping, you know, reduce some of the impact of all the lumps and bumps we went over the course of over 55 miles. Now, this Lectric saddle, as I mentioned, is not the most comfortable thing in the world for me. If you do get this bike or any electric bike, I recommend testing it out. Some people actually really like these. Just doesn't work out for me. I usually swap these out with a Cloud 9 seat. Suspension seat post did come into play. I definitely felt that putting in some work over the course of that ride today. But overall, very impressed. So as you can see, this is a very impressive result out of this XPeak 2.0. I am tired, I am hungry, I want some coffee, but let me know in the comment section below if you have any questions, comments, thoughts, concerns. Happy to address those, and if you do want to pick up one of these bikes, I will be sure to include an affiliate link in the description below, and if you use that to make your purchase, it absolutely helps support this channel and keeps the wheels moving on future reviews. As always, thank you so much for tuning into Tom's Gadget Garage. We'll see you next time.